So before the meat of this video starts, let me quickly preface this video by introducing myself and the purpose of this. My name is Barrows and I have never run a marathon before, but I have raced one half marathon in my life, and that was in January 2018 in Houston, where I ran 1:06:55, which was a phenomenal time for me. But I've dealt with a lot of injuries since then and have finally worked myself back into what I would consider a respectable fitness level for me, but I'm still not where I was in Houston yet. I do have the pipe dream of someday qualifying for the United States Olympic Trials Marathon, which currently requires under a time of 2:19 in the marathon, but that could be faster in the future. So for my first very unofficial marathon, it wasn't about stacking everything in my favor to see how fast I could run, but it was more about just gaining experience and learning about the distance. That being said, I did give my best effort and ran about as fast as I could on the day. So all that being said, I hope you enjoy the video. So this is it. This is the marathon video. Obviously I haven't run the marathon yet, but I just wanted to document a little bit of my day before and morning of before I run. So it's actually 4:19 p.m. right now, the day before I'm doing the unofficial marathon tomorrow morning. And to run you through my day so far, I woke up first thing in the morning. I did 45 minutes easy, followed by some hurdle hip mobility drills and stretching, and that was it for my training for the day. Then all morning and early afternoon, I was at a cross-country meet because our teams were competing at their regional meet today. So I was on my feet quite a bit there, and then we went to eat after that, and we ate at Steak and Shake. So pretty ideal pre-marathon meal, I think, is Steak and Shake. Not really, but I don't think it's really going to affect me either way. So I just made it back to my apartment 5 minutes ago, and right now it's 4:21 p.m. and I just need to lay down and relax for a little bit. Before I do that though, I'm going to roll out a little bit and just try to loosen up a bit before relaxing. So I've been pretty diligent about hydrating last night and throughout the morning, and I'm peeing pretty clear now, so most of the hydration is done. Don't have to worry about too much tonight because I'm gonna be off my feet for most of the rest of the night. So most of the hydration is done, but I'll be sipping on this bottle throughout the rest of the night still. I would love to take a nap right now, but once I start napping, it's really hard for me to get up. So I'm kind of at an awkward time right now to where if I fall asleep now, I'm not gonna want to get back up, and it'll be hard to sleep tonight. So I'm just gonna lay down and relax for a while, get off my feet, and not fall asleep. But that should help me sleep better tonight. So my parents are actually in town, and we just went to Applebee's just to spend some time together, and I wasn't really that hungry, but I figured I should eat a meal anyways, just because right now I'm about 12 hours out from my marathon start time, and if I didn't eat much tonight, I would have been really hungry in the morning, and I wouldn't want a huge meal in the morning before I run. So I just had a chicken breast, some broccoli, and mashed potatoes for my meal, and my parents got an appetizer sampler, so I was eating on some spinach and artichoke dip as well. So I'm done eating anything for the night, and I'm just gonna continue sipping on a little bit of water. I figure now would be a good time to explain my route to you. So this is the basic route. My start point's gonna be up here, and I'm just gonna follow along the entire way. These are all mile section dirt roads in southeast Kansas. So every time I get to another intersection, that's gonna be a mile, and that's gonna be pretty much at every intersection. There's a place for me to check every mile marker, except for up here I'll hit some half-mile roads where I'll just be able to check a 2-mile split. But I'll be able to monitor pace very easily during all of this. So I wouldn't say these are exactly dirt roads, but that's just what we call them. It's more like a very fine gravel, like a chat surface. And every bit of this is that chat surface, except for just a couple places where I cross the highway, and then right here is a highway as well. So I only have a half-mile on pavement out of the entire marathon. So if we take a closer look up here, this is my start point up here. I tried to be as precise as possible when measuring this out. So I mean, this is why it's an unofficial marathon, because it's not officially measured or anything, but I'm going to start right here, right in the middle of the intersection, and like I said, they're mile section dirt roads, so once I get to the next intersection down here, that's a mile, and so on. And when I go around turns, I also tried to be as precise as possible, so tried to take the inside of the turn, so I've got all the tangents, so I'm actually running the appropriate distance. And some of these sections throughout the entire course are actually just a tad long, maybe like 100th long for several of the sections. So I'm gonna pretend like they're all exactly a mile, but it'll just be like a bonus at the end, because right here when I get back to my start point, that's like 26.15 miles. And then I've just got a little bit extra to go to make it 26.22 miles, which is close enough to the full marathon distance. I think it's actually like 26.188, so rounding up. But basically I have this little object here. I think it's like a feeding silo or feeding trough or something that I'll be able to look at, and that'll basically be my finishing point just past where this fence crosses right here. So that's how I'm getting close enough to the accurate marathon distance. So I don't think there's really anything else for me to explain tonight or to do tonight. I think I'm just gonna shower and relax for a little while. It's only 8:15 right now, so I don't wanna go to bed yet, but I'll probably be up at 5:30 or 5:45 to get my body woken up a little bit and eat a little bit well ahead of my warm-up time. I'll probably roll out, do some mobility drills, drink a little bit of black tea to get some caffeine in me, but that's for the morning, so I will see you then. Howdy everyone. It's about 5:42 in the morning, and got my breakfast ready right now. Just going with a piece of bread with peanut butter and a banana on it, some grapes, and I've got some organic black tea to get some caffeine. Getting caffeine in me is something I almost never do. I usually just do it for like really key workouts, or like I did it before my Houston half marathon, and so I'm doing it today before my marathon just to see how it goes, I guess. So here's what the weather's looking like for the marathon right now. It's 49 degrees, that's as cool as it's gonna get. Should warm up to maybe high 50s by the time I'm done. Right now there's also a 9-mile-per-hour south-southwest wind, which is running into the wind for most of the first half and then with it for the second half, so shouldn't be too bad. And here is my marathon budget gear for the day. This is a New Balance singlet that I found at Marshall's several years ago, probably 2012. Found it for like $8. These are some Asics arm sleeves and some Nike gloves. The arm sleeves I've had for several years as well. Those were like $6. Gloves, I think I've had those since high school. They're getting some holes in the ends of the fingers, but they're really good light gloves, and I'll probably shed both of those a little bit into the marathon. I'll probably start with them on. And then the Nike shorts, I don't know, just standard split shorts. Got those for about 15 bucks at a running store a few years ago. For the socks, I'm just rocking these standard Nike crew socks that you can get anywhere at a Kohl's or JCPenney, probably like 6 pairs of them for $12, $18, I don't know, somewhere in there. And then the shoes, I've got the Adidas Solar Drives. I don't really see the need to wear flats for this, so I'm just going to wear the trainers that I've been wearing for the past several weeks. This is probably the last time I'm going to wear these. These have about 520 miles on them or so. Getting pretty worn down, so probably retire these after the race. fluid of choice for the day. That's all I'm going to have throughout the marathon is some diluted Gatorade. That was 20 ounces of Gatorade and 10 ounces of water, so I'm planning on trying to fuel every 4 miles, starting at mile 4, and I've got these Powerade cups, Gatorade in a Powerade cup, and so I'll try to drink about 5 ounces per stop, but I don't know, maybe that'll feel like too much and I won't feel like drinking that much. We'll just see as I go. I also want to make a quick note that I will be warming up in my Church of the Sunday long run gear. This is a new hoodie and then a new long sleeve underneath, and so stay tuned for those because those will be available to order soon. So the plan for pacing is to stick as close to 6-minute pace as possible throughout most of the marathon. I'm hoping that I can get to 20 miles relatively under control at 6-minute pace and then be able to pick it up over the last 10K. But really I hope I can at least just maintain that, and hoping I don't bonk. One very small contingency, and that is if I feel absolutely phenomenal, maybe 14, 15, or 16 miles in, maybe I'll pick it up there, but definitely going to be conservative throughout a lot of this and see how it goes. So as far as preparation goes, I've done pretty much everything I can right now until I warm up. For my warm up, I'm just going to do 1 mile, super easy, going to do some dynamic stuff, and then a couple really light build-ups, and then just get straight into the marathon at 7:30. So right now, I'm heading out to meet several members of my team that are going to be out there supporting me and helping me out, so I'll probably see you at the warm-up next.
Yeah! Let's go! Let's go!
The finish point is just down there. I marked it. Getting back here, I got like 26 points.
Get the phone. Let's go!
These people in this house right here probably hate us.
They just left.
Well,
They probably left because of us.
like, you know, we know. Honey, I'm awake now. Cross country team's here. What's up?
Here we go, boys. Here we go, boys. Here we go, boys. Here we go, boys. Let's go! Let's go!
Let's go!
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go.
I like how he's probably used none of this. Hey, you know what?
Where's the drone?
I am the drone. Yeah!
So after mile 1, I was almost absolutely positive that I was running too fast, but it was really hard to gauge my effort in that first mile because I was running into a pretty stiff headwind and I was running without a GPS watch. I just like running with a Timex. I'm not a big fan of GPS watches, so I just wanted to feel out the effort on that first mile and then adjust after that. There actually was this very little confident demon inside of me that was saying, this feels really easy right now. I bet if you make it through the first half into the wind at this pace, I bet you could come home in it too. But I went with some better judgment and dialed it back to closer to 6-minute pace like I had planned.
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Let's get zoom. Alright, tripod.
Hey, yeah!
Here we go.
Yeah!
Good turn, good turn.
Baby.
Let's go, Ben. Get some footage on this.
Let's go, Ben!
Hey, baby.
552, 553, 554.
Perfect. Locked in, baby, locked in.
So getting to mile 4, I spent the previous 3 miles trying to dial the pace back and get closer to the planned 6 flat miles, but I couldn't quite do it. I was doing my best, but that's just a rhythm that felt absolutely comfortable, and it just felt right. So I was just kind of maintaining that mid 550s, and then also getting to mile 4. Right after mile 4 is when I had my first drink stop. Now it's true what they say, that drinking fluids out of a cup while you're running is much harder than it seems. So my first drink attempt was not very successful. First of all, and I was kind of expecting this, when I pick up the cup on the run, a lot of it spills out, and then when I start trying to drink, some of it went in my mouth and some of it went on the right side of my face and a little bit in my eye. That didn't really bug me, but it was just kind of a pain in the butt. But it was not very comfortable trying to drink while running, just because you're trying to breathe and drink at the same time. So I was basically drinking air with water and working up some burps later after drinking that. So not very successful first one, but I had plenty of chances to work on that more throughout the race.
Let's go, buddy, let's go!
No, let's go!
Let's go! Hey, let's go! Let's go!
I'm just telling it like it is.
I'll put in $5.
Go, Ben!
Let's go!
Meet Cade. Cade, introduce yourself.
My name's Kate.
Alright, hey. Give us a little bio.
Let's go!
Looking sweet, baby. Looking sweet. Looking sweet. Watch out, man. Advertising. Advertising.
Hey, Adelaide,
So the next 4 miles were a little bit of the same. I was just in that same good rhythm that I had developed a few miles before. Mile 5 was the last one for a while that was straight into the wind, so I got a little bit of crosswind after that, so that was a nice break. Once I got to mile 8, it was time for my second fueling station, because I was trying to do that every 4 miles. So this time the TV tray that we're using was a little bit low, so I kind of had to bend down to grab the first one. So Cade and Hallie, they were holding the TV tray up a little higher, and I felt kind of bad because when I grabbed the cup, it splashed all over Cade, but it was pretty much the same thing. I still struggled to drink while running, but I figured I had to force it down, because otherwise I wouldn't have enough fuel later in the race. So I got as much of that cup as I could down me without trying to spill the least amount possible, but I don't think I was very successful with that still, but I got a little bit in me.
Let's go, man! Oh my God! Let's go, brother! 549, 550, 551. Dude, go!
Getting to mile 10, my cumulative time at this point was just under 59 minutes. So I was averaging 5:54 or so at this time. And I was feeling pretty good at this point still. I knew that the next 3 miles were going to be one of the physically toughest stretches as far as the conditions go, just because that's the latest point in the race that I was running into the wind. So miles 10 through 13, heading straight south into the wind. So I was trying to do my best to focus on just not fighting the wind and staying smooth. And once I got done with that, I knew I was going to be halfway, so that was a good landmark. And at mile 12, I had my third drink station. Still a little rough, still splashed Cade, but once again, getting a little bit of fuel in me for hopefully helping me out later in the race.
Let's go, Coach Barrows! What's the total time now? Looking good, looking good! Oh, beautiful, beautiful!
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Hang tough, hang tough, hang tough, hang tough, brother. trying to like hurry up and get to.
So like I said before, getting to mile 13 was a big landmark because I was done running straight into the wind, although I would have a crosswind for a number of miles in the second half. But just getting halfway and being done with the wind was huge. So like I said before the video, some of these mile sections out here are a little bit long. So my 13-mile time that I listed in the video, that's actually really close to what my actual half marathon time would be. I would guess my half marathon time would have been 1:17 low or so. And so at this point I'm thinking like, man, if I just do that again, that's a 2:34. And going into this, I would have been super pleased with a 2:35. So knowing that my plan is to hopefully pick it up over the last 10K, the thoughts of a 2:33 marathon time start entering my mind as well. So I know there's still a lot of race to go, but just doing a little bit of math in my head at this point. I'm not like paying too much attention while I'm running at my cumulative splits or anything, but halfway is a very easy one to know exactly what pace you're on.
Well, you can do it right now. So we know 20 miles, we have 6 minutes a mile, so it's 120 minutes. Plus 6 times 6 is 30 minutes. 22 is enough. Let's go! Let's go, Ben! 53! Go, Ben!
Here we go, Coach Ben! Here we go!
Let's go, Ben! 545, 546, 547!
So getting to mile 16 was a little bit of a nice fresh breath of air because I was getting to run with the wind at this point. So I'd run the past 2 miles with the wind. I was running north and I knew I had 4 more miles straight north. So you know, I was focused on running relaxed into the wind, but at the same time I'm still trying to focus on running relaxed with the wind. You know, I'm just trying to relax the shoulders, not force anything, and my pace was definitely quickening, but I was running at this same effort. So nice to see those times going down a little bit. Mile 16 was also my 4th drink stop, and finally I did a little bit better of a job with grabbing the cup and not splashing a bunch all over Cade. And I was kind of picking how much I wanted to drink at this point because I still wasn't getting it right with, like, you know, only drinking the Gatorade mix. I was kind of swallowing air with it still, and that was causing some minor discomfort in my stomach ever since I started drinking, but it was nothing that affected my running. So I wasn't trying to force the whole cup down, but as soon as I felt comfortable with what I got, I just threw my cup down and kept going.
Yeah. What would you guys
Let's
start?
go, Ben!
How we started like.
Let's go, baby!
And then
We're
we
rolling. Good job, Coach! Here we go, here we go. 542!
That way, Ben!
547!
So immediately after mile 19, I started to develop a more serious side stitch. And like I said, I was dealing with some minor stomach discomfort throughout the entire race, pretty much ever since I started drinking the Gatorade. But that was nothing that affected me. But I could definitely feel this one was going to affect me, or had a pretty big chance of affecting me. So I was really hoping that it was going to work itself out, but I knew I was too late into the marathon at this point to really give up on anything, so I just kept pushing through the next couple miles. to the last 2 miles heading into mile 21. Fortunately, the side stitch did work itself out in a matter of probably a mile and a half or so. But as soon as that worked itself out, I definitely felt a noticeable fatigue in my legs, more so than the previous 19 miles or 20 miles, whatever it is. And but at this point, like during the 20th mile, I honestly felt like I was about to run a 6:10. I thought with that side stitch, I was feeling about a 6:10 pace, and I was headed towards Bonk City. But I kept hearing these 550s, and so at this point I'm thinking like, okay, if I keep running 550s feeling like this, maybe I can just finish the marathon at 550 pace. I know I was saying that I wanted to be able to pick it up over the last 10K, but I had been, you know, a little bit ahead of 6-minute pace throughout basically the entire marathon, that I knew if I could just finish at 550 pace, that would be a great first marathon for me. Mile 20 was also my 5th drink station, which after the first one, I was pretty much dreading every single one of those. But mile 20, I was really dreading because I was still dealing with that side stitch at the time, and that was probably caused by the mixture of Gatorade. It probably wasn't sitting too well in my stomach, and you know, just the air that I was swallowing with the Gatorade too probably had something to do with that. So I knew still with 6 miles to go, with 10K to go, I needed to drink some more fluids though, get some kind of carbohydrates in me. So I forced a little bit more down, did a better job with grabbing the cup once again, didn't get K'd too wet, I don't think. So that part of it was going better, but the actual drinking sucked.
Let's go, kid! Mile tall!
That doesn't look that bad.
You don't need that shit! It's just a morning run, man! Alright, hey! Let's go, man! Let's go, man! Let's go!
So after mile 23, somehow I'm still surviving. I'm still feeling that same heavy fatigue develop in my legs, but still running 550. So at this point, I've only got 3 more miles east and a little bit more to finish, and I'm just putting everything I can into it to try to finish at 550.
Let's go, Ben!
Come on, Coach Ben.
Gorilla tough, baby! Gorilla tough!
Let's see.
Come on, man! Let's go!
So let's take it 1 mile at a time now. After mile 24, I still had that same pretty heavy fatigue in my legs, but I didn't know what I was going to end up running. But finally, I definitely was actually slowing down instead of just feeling like I was slowing down. So this was my first mile over 6, and somewhere in the middle of the marathon, I was thinking like, cool, I've run every mile under 6 so far. Maybe I can do that for the entire marathon, but that was out of the question now. After mile 24 was also supposed to be my 6th and final drink station, but I made the decision not to drink anything just because I felt like it was going to hurt me more than it would help me. At this point, I knew I was slowing down, my breathing was getting heavier, and I knew if anything broke my rhythm at that point, I was going to be done. I mean, my rhythm was pretty much already broken, but just anything to break it more would have been terrible, I think.
Let's go, hey, let's go, let's go, let's go. Yeah! Ooh. Yeah! Get yourself. Okay! We don't yell like this. Yeah!
So for mile 25, I'm going more and more into survival mode, most definitely on the struggle bus. Maybe not as significant as a slowdown as some have experienced in a marathon, but to me it felt like a freight train hit me, and yet I was still managing a respectable pace at this point. But normally I'm a very mathematical person when I'm running. I'm always calculating splits to figure out, you know, what time do I need to run to end up at this time, and I wasn't doing that very much throughout the marathon. But I glanced down at my watch and saw the 2:28, just above 2:28 for the cumulative time at 25, and part of me was like, okay, what do I need to run to get under 2:35? And then the next part of me was like, I don't care, I just need to survive. So unfortunately for me, the way that I had planned the loop, mile 26 was an uphill mile. This is southeast Kansas that we're talking about, so there's nothing significant, but at mile 26 in the marathon, I figure I'm gonna feel every bit of that hill. It's pretty gradual up for the first 800 meters or so, and I knew that was gonna be a struggle.
You have no control of that with your foot. Here we go, baby.
This is you!
Finish! Finish!
It's so hard! It's so hard! Let's go! Go, man!
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Yeah! Yeah, coach! Okay. Oh yeah, coach, let's get it. Hell, you go work, baby. Yeah, let's go.
Pour the rest of the fuel in the bottle if you want it.
The thought that went to my mind when
Just
I saw
a
you across the
machine.
viral video of this.
That's what we all said.
Quality content.
This is the wholesome content.
I'm gonna cry.
Let's go, man!
So finally finishing the unofficial marathon, I had absolutely nothing left. I couldn't sprint or anything, and you know, I probably could have given a little more, but you know, nothing's really on the line and I'm hurting so bad, so I just make sure I make it to the line. As I said a couple times earlier, some of the mile sections were a little bit long, so I didn't have much to add on after that 26th mile to make it actually 26.22 miles. So I was super stoked to be able to get under 235 and manage the Bonk City pretty well. If you know, if you look at the last 3 miles, if I managed those and maintained pace the last 3 miles, I probably would have saved not quite 2 minutes, but a little over a minute on my time, which would have just put me at 2:33 something. So I'm definitely not upset about bonking in the last 3 miles. So trying to cool down after this marathon was very reminiscent of my Houston half marathon, because after you finish, you spend a good while walking around, and then as soon as I tried to take my first steps, my quads completely cramped up and I could not move. So it was pretty funny because I started my watch and just stopped it right away after a couple steps, and I was like, yep, gotta wait a little bit longer. So I gave myself about another minute or so and then tried to work very, very slowly into a cool down. I cooled down for probably 7 minutes, definitely not a mile, but maybe enough to make it 28 miles for the day, whatever that's worth. But maybe got a little bit of junk out of my legs, but it was a pretty tough cool down. So now that I'm done talking about what was actually going on during the marathon, I want to talk about some takeaways that I have from my very first unofficial marathon experience. Number one is that the marathon is very, very, very hard. Toughness is an attribute that is always very significant in success in distance running, but at some point during a marathon, if you don't get your fueling or your pacing right, it doesn't matter how tough you are. If you don't get those things right, you are headed straight to bonk city late in the race. And while toughness may help you limit that fade, your body is literally running out of fuel and cannot do the same things that it was doing earlier in the race. So that is very, very hard. Now, I've already touched on this a little bit, but the second takeaway is that fueling is very, very difficult and very tricky as well. I could have used a bottle, which would have been much easier, but I chose to go with the cups just because I figure that's the worst case scenario. Depending on what marathon I choose to actually race at, I may have to deal with cups, so I figured I should kind of know how to do that a little bit. As I was saying earlier, you're just trying to breathe and drink at the same time. You're getting air into your stomach and it's not very comfortable, and you need to know what works for your body and what sits well in your stomach, and that was a completely unknown thing for me, so that was good to experience. For me, I personally felt like trying to fuel at 4 miles was a little bit too soon. Maybe I could have delayed that by a couple miles, and I probably wasn't getting enough substance in me throughout the marathon either. So I feel like drinking something that's a little more dense and maybe out of bottles would have helped me from getting to Bonk City that soon. So I think that's something that can help me out a lot in the future. My third takeaway is that I have a long ways to go to achieve my goal of sub 2:19 in the marathon. As I said earlier, this marathon was not about trying to stack everything in my favor to run as fast as possible. I just wanted to experience it because I knew I wasn't going to run under 2:19 in this unofficial marathon, and even if I did, it wouldn't count for anything. So part of the things that I did to limit how fast I was running kind of helped save my legs a little bit, I think. So it's obvious that there are a number of things that I could have done to help me run a little bit faster today, such as wearing marathon flats instead of my trainers with 500 miles on them. I could have run on pavement instead of dirt roads. That's a faster surface, although it would have been harder on the legs. I could have entered a real marathon race where I'd have people to run with and competition. Weather for me this morning was pretty good, but not quite ideal. That's something that you never know if it's going to be perfect on race day, no matter where and when you're racing, but the wind was just a little stiffer than I would have liked this morning, and it was definitely a grind the first half, just getting through the wind or maybe slightly into the wind, but it was refreshing going with the wind. But overall, you know, having more wind, it hurts you more than it helps you. So not perfect, but pretty good. Now, I'm never going to tell anybody that the marathon that I ran today was worth this time because of all these different things that were slowing me down. I chose to do those things for a reason, and it frankly doesn't matter what I ran anyways, because I wasn't doing it for a time, I was doing it for the experience. But it is obvious that there are several things that I could have done that would have helped me run faster with the exact same fitness. Now that is the important thing to me, improving my fitness to give me a better shot of running that sub 2:19 in the future. So that is my primary focus. That's where the bulk of that 15 minutes that I need to run faster is going to come from, is being more fit and more trained for the marathon. I haven't really had any marathon specific training in the past several months, and that definitely showed in the last few miles, so that's one thing that will help me in the future. Now, the fifth thing that I want to take away from this marathon, and this is completely unrelated to the marathon itself, but I just want to say how fortunate I am to get to work with the athletes that I have. Even though I am one of their coaches, we're kind of like teammates as well. They support my goals and dreams just as much as I hope I support theirs, and I can't thank them enough for that. Several of those athletes that were out supporting me during this marathon had put everything on the line for the team at the regional meet the day before, and yet they're willing to wake up early the next morning to go support me running on my own on the dirt roads in the middle of nowhere for 26.2 miles. So it was just a very fun experience, and I hope from watching the video that you could really feel the hype, the energy, the fun that we're having, and I hope you could see the culture that we have and the bond that we share. It's a phenomenal group, and everything is better with the team. So if you do a lot of things on your own, I suggest you find some kind of community to help you out with your goals, and you can help them out with their goals and just elevate each other, and that's really what we do every day. So now, to finally conclude this video, I've been running consistently since March after my injuries. I've been training consistently, meaning I've been doing workouts something more than just easy running since May. And I'm very, very due for some time off after a good block of consistent training. So next week I'm going to take completely off. I'm not going to run, I'm not going to cross train, I'm not going to weightlift, I'm not going to do anything exercise related except, you know, walk around or do whatever I need to at work duty wise, and I'm going to enjoy some junk food here and there. I'm going to get a lot of sleep, and then maybe I'll do the same the next week too. I'm not going to rush getting back into things because some time off to physically and mentally recharge the batteries, even after a very successful, healthy season, is very important. So I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity to unwind a little bit and be more of a normie that's not counting how many miles he runs every day. So that's all I've got for you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.